Hey guys, this is Josh from Bob Marriott's Fly Fishing, and today we're going to tie a splash caddis, what we call a splash caddis. It's a fly that we sell here at the shop, but you can't really get this fly unless you tie it yourself. This is an emerger pattern for a caddis hatch, and basically if you fish a caddis hatch, you may have noticed that fish get real voracious. Sometimes they're jumping out of the water, but when you see real splashy rises, and you're sitting there with your Elk-Hair Caddis and you can't get the fish to touch it, it's usually because they are on emergers. So they're hitting flies that are just below the surface. This is a great pattern for that situation, and just a really good all-around caddis pattern. We tie the body in with this pattern. When I tie a caddis pattern, I like to tie, if you look at a caddis online or whatever, you look at the body of a caddis, they're not shaped at all like mayflies. And a lot of the store-bought flies, you see them, the caddis and the mayfly is exactly the same body, but they have totally different bodies. So a caddis body, for my money, has a kind of a fat butt. So I give it a few turns right at the bottom before I start to come up, and I'm going to need a little bit more dubbing to complete this fly. Well, maybe not. And so I give it a nice fat bottom. And that, for me, looks like a caddis. And now, the other material we use for this is we use CDC, which is a great fly tying material, and for you tiers, you know this, especially for trout flies. But again, this is stuff that tiers have, but not a lot of store-bought flies are tied with CDC. And that is the main component to this fly. And basically what we do here is we're gonna tie a wing onto this caddis fly. But this won't really act as a wing. This basically acts like a trailing shuck on this fly. So when that gets wet, it'll kind of come down and it looks like a shuck caddis, so it looks like maybe a cripple or an emerging caddis, and I think that's what makes this particular fly work. But again, this is something that you, the tyer, are going to have to do, because you can't get this kind of a tie in the store-bought pattern. And we're going to put on a little deer hair wing above it. And this fly sits real well, it floats real well. We just tighten it down. Now this fly was really born out of frustration, as most good flies are born out of. There's actually a tyer in New York that, I'm from New York originally, and this guy would tie this pattern, or a pattern kind of like this, for streams up there by the Delaware River, the Delaware watershed, with the same thing. Fish are going nuts, but they're not eating my caddis. So now we're gonna just tie in a little thorax here. And I like to tie in, for my thoraxes, and just my flies in general, I like to tie a buggy looking fly. I feel like they fish better. I feel like fish like them more. I'm not super, I like to be kind of creative and just tie in a nice buggy looking fly. So this is we're about to tie in this spiky dubbing, this SLF stuff, It's really good stuff. Love that stuff. I tie with it a lot. It's got a little bit of flash in there as well, which is nice. So I tie in a fairly big thorax in this fly. I just feel like it gives a nice profile and looks buggy and emerging, and it works. And that's it. It's a real easy tie, but only if you do it yourself. Or we do have them here at Bob Marriott's because we tie them for the shop, but you can't really get it at any old local fly shop. So let me just snip it, and that's it. And that's it. That's a splash caddis. Now when you fish this fly, you need to use dry shake because it does have a CDC wing. You can't use gink with this fly. But in a caddis hatch, this is definitely a weapon that you need to have in your quiver. And something definitely you can learn how to tie. And we do have fly tying classes here at the shop. We have one coming up in September on the 15th. It's a Saturday class. It starts at 4 and goes till 8. And we tie 4 different patterns that kind of give you the tools you need to move forward and tie whatever patterns you want. But this is real easy tie. I mean, anybody can tie this. Fly tying is a great part of fly fishing. And there's nothing more satisfying than catching a fish with a fly that you tied. Sometimes I even bring my tying stuff to the river, and I've had the experience of seeing a hatch on the water, running back to the car, tying the perfect fly for it, going back down there and catching a fish with a fly I just tied on the side of the river. So it's a great thing to do, and it's a great component to fly fishing. And so come on out, learn some skills, and then you take it from there and tie whatever flies you want. You could tie this in chartreuse or whatever colors you want and get creative with it. So we hope to see you down at the shop, and that's it.